Commenting, reflecting, reasoning, reckoning.
The Huddle.
On the Huddle this evening, Josie Pagani is with us. Hello, Josie.
Hi, Larry.
And we have Cameron Slater from whaleoil.co.nz. Cam, good evening to you.
Good evening, Larry and Josie.
Josie, I'm going to come to you first. .com versus Banks. The Prime Minister is backing Mr Banks. He's taking Mr Banks at his word. Banks says he has complied with all the local government regulations and the law. What's your take on this?
Well, he probably will get off because there has to be a paper trail that shows that you definitely knew about the donation, but it still leaves a stink around it. And I mean, .com is just a gift that keeps on giving, isn't he? What on earth brought these two news stories together? John Banks and .com, it's like finding out that your dad hangs out with the Kardashians or something. I just can't get my head around it. And John Banks has now today got a new nickname. He's now called John Banks, which I think he'll never get rid of. No matter what happens with the law, he's got a smell around him now.
John Banks, is there a stench around this, Cameron?
Oh, look, it's not tidy. What we've got here is a rather avuncular German businessman who's a bit miffy that he didn't get some help when he was in Mount Eden prison that he thinks that he should have got, and has decided to exact some revenge. And in doing so, he's painted a picture that John Banks knew something when what is going to come out from all of this is that John Banks actually didn't know. People are saying, oh, he's been weaselly with his excuses, he's been unable to explain. But the bottom line is, if you don't know something, how can you explain something?
But the thing is, Cam, it took him ages to realise that he didn't know something. I mean, yesterday he was saying he didn't recall a phone call at all with .com. Then he refused to answer questions. Now he's miraculously remembered that there was a phone call, but now he's litigating that he didn't actually say, thank you very much for your kind donation, thank you very much, about this donation. Now he's litigating that he said thank you about another donation.
Well, that's because of all the allegations. That's because of all the allegations that are out there being flung around by the likes of Trevor Mallard and you know, frankly, any allegation that comes from Trevor Mallard needs to be taken with a great big fistful of salt. He's never been right on anything he's said so far.
He would make this all, it would all go away if he simply answered the question, did you know who gave you that donation?
He said no. End of.
Well, no.
And Winston Peters said no once, didn't he?
Yeah, but he said he hasn't said no. He doesn't know who gave him the donation.
He says they were anonymous. He signed a declaration. That means no.
Yes, but
Cameron. Look, I think legally, and the legal opinion does appear to favour Mr. Banks, but does that really matter? In the eye of the public see Mr. Banks not answering questions, and it didn't look good.
Well,
and I think
you're right, Larry, in that there's two things here. There's the legal side of it, and the legal side of it would suggest that John Banks is okay. The political side is a whole different matter, and there's a whole lot of things that are in play around that. And my old rule about explaining is losing doesn't really help in this situation. So you're right, it doesn't look good. But, bear in mind here, with all the calls from Labour and such for stand-downs, Phil Goff resisted standing down Darren Hughes for a long time.
That's an interesting point, actually, so Key should learn from that and probably stand him down.
Well, and the other thing is that Winston Peters was only ever stood down finally when it became absolutely certain that he had in fact received donations and denied receiving the donations. Now, bear in mind here, John Banks has never said he didn't receive them. Banks has never said he didn't receive them. In fact, he declared those donations.
You're right, Josie. The Prime Minister at the time said he should stand him down, but you see, that's the thing. Peters lost the election. I know there's a difference between local and government issues, but perception is everything. Peters didn't get back in, and I don't...
We shouldn't have anonymous, big anonymous donations like this anyway. The reason that we need to know is that we need to know if anybody's out there trying to buy influence, and that's the same whether you're left or right.
All right, well, okay. I want to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about that in a moment. Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani with me. It's now 15 to 6. It is now 13 to 6, back with Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani. Cameron, just finally on this Mr. Banks and Mr. .com. You don't give money. I wonder who else .com has given money to. In fact, whether he has given money to other politicians, we don't know. But you don't give money unless there's some sort of payback along the line, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, that's what Josie
generally
and the
speaking.
Labour Party would like to think, that there's some sort of payback. I mean, they attacked Team Macmillan over donations to the National Party and got that wrong. But this is why I think there needs to be some sort of regime for anonymous donations. But on that, I would, and I've heard, from some pretty credible sources that have alleged that Winston Peters is a recipient of donations from Kim.com.
Well, he's allowed to be, though.
He is allowed to be.
If that's the case.
That's the thing, isn't it, though, Cam? I mean, it's no big conspiracy theory. People giving donations is a good thing. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And knowing who's giving the big donations is important, not because there's some big conspiracy theory, but because you need to know that if the extreme brethren is financing the National Party nothing. But we need to know. And the other thing we need to know, I think the banks do it quite well. I mean, you get the big banks who will give the same donation to each big political party, and it's completely open, and you all get invites to their corporate box as well, and so they make it equal. But it's just if there's a perception that political influence is being bought or sold, that's not good for any
But even when it's published, and it is, and Team Macmillan had their donation published under the 30,000 threshold, it was public within 10 days as required by law. As soon as that happened, the Labour Party made a big deal out of it, said they were involved in the BMW decision, actually vilified a company that was out there that had no recourse to actually answer questions in Parliament or anything like that on the basis of a public donation. It was all wrong, but that's the problem. That's the flip side, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I love the idea that John Banks, who's campaigned against gambling all his life and is like the sort of Jehovah's Witness that knocks on your door, accepted a $15,000 donation.
There's an old saying, Josie, about tainted money. They're taint enough of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Look, I've got to leave it there. I wanted to talk about Weta, but I've run out of time. Thank you, Cameron. Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani. NewstalkZB, it's now 10 to 6.